The intern shifted uneasily. All eyes at the press conference immediately turned to her, after Michael had insinuated that her question was setting a trap for him. But Michael kept a kindly demeanor as he continued. You just said that the Rose Company doesn't care about profits. They only hope to maximize the benefits for the public and their customers, correct? I think all of us are savvy enough to recognize that this is a PR move by the Rose Company, as much as anything else a company might do. Before we see hard numbers and results, I think we need to take anything else a company says with a grain of salt. It's like when the gas companies make an ad telling us they care about the earth. It's a nice idea, but we shouldn't take them at their word. We need to verify their claims. The room chuckled, but many reporters also perked up at what was essentially a shot at the Rose Company. Had Michael Johnson just called them dishonest? Another reporter raised their hand. Mr. Johnson, are you saying that the Rose Company is all talk and no action? Michael sighed. You are saying that. I'm just saying that it's business. It's PR, and to hold us up to a statement they made about their ideals is unwise. On the other hand, there are many proven things I know our company does to help our employees that we can be happy about. Another reporter called out a question without raising his hand. But Mr. Johnson, they've been cutting their own profits for their customers. Are you going to commit any of your company's profits to your customers or to any other good cause? Michael thought for a moment, then chose to answer the question indirectly. For any given person, the ingredients for a meal might cost a couple of dollars, and they can buy the same ingredients assembled into a meal at a restaurant for, let's say, to make it easy, $20. That additional $18 isn't just a windfall that goes straight into the CEO's pocket. It pays for their space, their chefs, their equipment, the rest of their staff, their taxes, and so on. At least for any company I am familiar with, this is how it works. So I'm curious what exactly we might be cutting if we were to offer people such a huge discount. Michael's words were clear to the assembled reporters, and they found it a thought-provoking idea. The press conference continued amicably. Michael continued to act very relaxed and friendly, occasionally making jokes and handling all the points raised with a deft hand. Everyone in attendance was feeling very optimistic about the future of Confluence technology. Michael looked at his watch. It's almost time for me to get back to work. Let's end it with one last question and then everyone can go to lunch. If you're looking for a recommendation, the restaurant at the Park Company is excellent. He grinned. Remember to get the code for your game. Everyone laughed at his tireless focus on their game. Are there any more questions? He asked. An older man who sat in the back corner without uttering a sound the whole time raised his hand. Yes, you, sir. Michael gestured toward him. Please ask your question. The man stood up slowly. He wore a rumpled suit and had deep frown lines. Yes, I want to ask... Excuse me, Michael interrupted. Which publication are you with? The man ignored the question and kept going. Mr. Johnson, have you ever considered that a merger between your company and the Park Company would disrupt the balance of the entire market? Why would the gaming industry work with the real estate and hospitality industry? Is it all that nonsense you said before, or is it because the chairman of the Park Company is your daughter, and you can do whatever you want? It is not responsible, and will potentially ruin two entirely separate industries. Don't you feel guilty for ruining so many lives with this decision? As Michael heard the beginning of the question, he sighed. He knew this man was just here to cause trouble, and probably hoped to catch Michael saying something foolish or becoming angry and out of control. All of the other reporters in the room turned to look at the man who had asked the question. Not only had Michael already addressed why their companies wanted to work together, but it wasn't unheard of for game companies to work with other industries to attract young people to spend money in other places. Although it was not as obvious why Confluence Technology and the Park Company would partner up, it was a bit surprising and out of line to claim that this move would destroy the balance of two different markets. The reporters whispered to each other. They all felt that this man was not familiar, but wanted to check with one another. However, as they whispered, their suspicions grew, as Michael said that this man was only here to agitate. Michael thought for a moment, and then decided how he would approach the situation. "I would ask you again to provide the name of the media company you are here to represent, but you will not be able to provide that for any of us, will you?" he began. "However, since I did say I would answer one last question, I will answer yours directly." The man did not seem to have expected Michael to be so straightforward in this situation. He pursed his lips and just stared Michael down defiantly. Michael stepped out from behind the podium and buttoned his suit jacket button, preparing to leave. "As you said, she is my daughter. I help her when I can. What is wrong with that?" His voice rang out, clear and assertive, to silence in the room. He spoke with the assured confidence that none of them could fault a father for employing in this situation for his daughter. Before the older man or the reporters could react, Michael waved, "Thank you for your time today. I need to get back to getting this game ready." With that, he turned and left the room. Anselpar stood up and announced to the room, "The press conference has concluded. All reporters and photographers, please leave in an orderly manner through the exit on the right. Thank you so much on behalf of Confluence Technology for attending today." As everyone stood to leave, Ansel subtly gestured to the security guards at the edge of the room, trying to direct them toward the older man who had asked the last question, and did not seem to be attending as a member of the press. However, in the bustle of the departing reporters, he could not get their attention in time, and the older man snuck away in the confusion. Ansel arrived in Michael's office shortly after. He looked apologetic. "Mr. Johnson, that man got away. I'm sorry." Michael pinched his nose, clearly annoyed, but not with Ansel. "It's fine, thank you for trying. What's next for me?" Ansel consulted a tablet. "You have a video conference call in 15 minutes. Michael nodded. "All right, sounds good. Can you bring me any prep work we did for that?" Ansel nodded and left the office. Michael's last words at the press conference were in articles all over the internet by the afternoon. Though he had held the press conference to cut down on the separate interviews he was giving to reporters, there were now countless new people trying to call him to get additional answers and quotes. This also brought all of the past stories about Michael back into public view. He was once again dragged by someone because he left the Johnson Company for Victoria. The press conference also won Michael some new fans. Many people left comments and wrote pieces about how they wanted to support his game and support the park company. The story of the assault on the street when the horde of photographers chased him and Victoria also reemerged, further winning Michael points in the public arena. Some new fans particularly loved Michael's answer from the press conference about defending and helping Olivia because she was his daughter. Some fans even appeared a bit fanatical about this, excitedly proclaiming Michael as America's daddy on social media. Olivia thought that particular detail was hilarious, but also felt proud of her father for how he'd handled everything. The park company and Confluence Technology came out overall winners from the conference, their names popularized and boosted. Since people could get codes from visiting the park company website or any of their physical locations, people who didn't even play the game started trading their codes online, creating much more community and buzz around the situation than Olivia had ever thought possible. All of these beneficial circumstances created a wave of good press and good feelings for their companies. However, Olivia had the nagging feeling that, even though there was a lot of smoke and mirrors, the Rose Company still had the upper hand on appearing more altruistic and generous. Olivia had an idea for how to create even more love and goodwill for them before their game launched, with a charity fundraiser to save New York City shelter dogs. Olivia had come up with a brilliant idea for how to help New York and respond to the criticism about customers having to spend money at the park company in order to get codes for Confluence's game. Their site now had a place to donate to New York shelter dogs in exchange for codes, and their site's traffic took off like wildfire. The amount they raised rocketed so high so quickly that Park and Confluence cut a check for the New York City animal shelter system almost immediately. They publicized the improvements the shelters were able to pay for, from things as small as having more toys and blankets to changes as large as hosting adoption fairs, spay and neuter drives, and being able to convert to no-kill shelters. People who donated were thrilled to see the impact they made and widely shared all of this information. The number of animals adopted by the shelter skyrocketed because of the publicity. And through all this good doing, the park company had thrown the Rose Company 10 steps behind. When Mark found out about this initiative and how well it was doing, the tantrum he threw became something of a legend within the Rose Company. He had cut a lot of corners on his own product, and Olivia was once again racking up new fame and fortune for making a move that didn't hurt her own company or product at all. Once Mark had calmed down enough to see clearly, he paced back and forth in his penthouse office at his hotel, fists clenched. He thought he might die of anger. How did I let this happen? He thought to himself. Why am I up against Olivia, the most unkillable cockroach in New York City? Why hasn't anyone else around her gotten frustrated enough to stab her yet? She just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Mark looked at the cuts on his hand from the mirror he'd smashed in anger. Each of these cuts is Olivia's fault, he thought bitterly. 3 knocks sounded tentatively on the door. What? Mark shouted. Mark's assistant cracked the door open and barely poked his head inside. Mr. DeLillo, Miss Cooper is here. That harpy? Mark rolled his eyes and threw his arms down at his sides like a child. Tell her I'm not here. The assistant stammered. Sir, I get it. Mr. DeLillo is very busy. Beatrix's voice came from behind the assistant. Mark froze and looked at the door. All he could see was half the assistant's face because he was still afraid to enter the room any further. Mark sneered at the cut on the bridge of his assistant's nose. Look at your face. Don't you know how to take care of yourself when you're injured? Are you trying to get me in trouble? The assistant reached out to touch the wound on his nose, unsure how to respond. He had not imagined that Mark would cut his face and then be angry with him for working with a cut on his face. Get lost, Mark shouted, waving him away impatiently. Yes, Mr. DeLillo, his assistant said before turning to leave. Beatrix watched the assistant hurry away, his shoulders practically up to his ears, and did not say anything. She strode into Mark's office and closed the door. She idly picked up a paperweight and played with it between her fingers as she spoke. There's a lot of news lately about the park company. Mark snorted. Who cares? She's going to rise and burn out so quick. Beatrix rolled her eyes. Oh, really? Mark was so irritated that he did not have the patience to try to be subtle about trading jabs with Beatrix. What do you mean? He snapped. And what are you doing here at all? She was feeling similarly tired of veiling her disdain for Mark. I came here to see if you were freaking out, so that question has been answered, she replied dryly. She knew he was a complete idiot, and being polite to him was a waste of her acting skill. Beatrix sat on the sofa, tossing the paperweight in her hand. Olivia's value has risen. She will be the winner next quarter. But it barely started. Why are you so sure? Mark snorted. There's like so long left to go. Beatrix put the paperweight down, sighing. Yeah, Mark, she said in a mocking tone. There's like 13 weeks and a quarter. He frowned at her impatiently. I have a calendar in my office, Beatrix, thank you. Wow, good job, she replied sarcastically. Your office supply game is really on point. She gazed idly at her nails. I wonder if Mr. DeLillo's calendar has any indication that the Nevin family has organized a birthday party for Georgina Crawford tomorrow. I also wonder if he knows that Olivia is on the guest list. Mark's jaw dropped. What? What did you say? Beatrix sneered and took an invitation out from her purse. All of those fancy supplies, and you forgot to get yourself a hearing aid. She tossed the invite on his desk. This is the invitation. It's tomorrow night at 7, Mr. DeLillo. Don't be late. I know to not be late, Mark retorted like an annoyed sibling. Will Olivia definitely be there? Beatrix rolled her eyes. How would I know, Mark? I'm not psychic, but... But what? Mark asked eagerly. Beatrix smiled. I may not be able to control Olivia, but I do have a way to make her feel the need to participate. Mark assessed Beatrix, suspiciously looking her up and down. He knew from the bottom of his heart that it was embarrassing to associate with the Cooper family. However, the mysterious man had told him to join forces with Beatrix, so he figured he might as well listen to Beatrix's plan. If you have anything to say it quickly, he said. Beatrix narrowed her eyes at him. This is not the attitude one should have when seeking help, she sighed. You know what? Forget it. I don't expect you to understand anyway. She paused, then made eye contact as she spoke. Jake Nevin is a useless idiot, but that idiot is still the director of the New York City Chamber of Commerce. Mark waited for Beatrix to continue, but she didn't. So, he asked, what are you saying? Are you changing the subject now? Beatrix sighed. If she were speaking to someone with a brain, they would definitely know what to do at this point. But Mark was asking her to continue with that stupid look on his face. His already stupid-looking face. Beatrix suppressed the answer she wished she could say to him instead. She took a deep breath. Since Jake Nevin is the director of the New York City Chamber of Commerce, he has the power to conduct certain types of investigations into the park company. For example, Olivia has a big drive for donations for animal shelters. But how much of that money is actually going to the animals? Mark's eyes lit up and he finally understood. Yes, there you go, Mark. Beatrix nodded. Is it possible that Olivia has lined her own pockets to some degree? As long as we plant doubt around Olivia, from what I know about her personality and how much she values her company, she will definitely make an appearance at the Nevin family's function tomorrow night. She would be there to do damage control with a bunch of power players all at once. Mark snorted. I guess you do have some brains after all. When Beatrix heard that, she wanted to vomit. If the mysterious man didn't want them to work together, she would have made this man suffer for his arrogance and stupidity 1,000 times over by now. She absolutely would not be lowering herself to work with him. Beatrix smiled an icy smile and stood up. I will not disturb you anymore. Mark sighed. Good. I have so much work to do. I'm having the worst day ever. Beatrix picked up her purse and headed for the door, fantasizing about picking up one of Mark's stupid sculptures. He certainly had not picked out himself and goring him with it. Before she reached the door, there was another knock. What? Mark shouted. I'm so busy right now. The assistant opened the door as timidly as before. Mr. DeLillo, Brett Cooper of the Cooper family is here to see you. Beatrix frowned. She did not know her father was going to come here, and did not imagine that he had a good reason to be there. Mark frowned and sighed, muttering to himself, It's like everyone specifically wants to torture me. This is the worst. How many Coopers are going to dirty my furniture in one day? Though he was muttering, Beatrix heard everything. Her back stiffened and an odd expression twisted her face. She turned to Mark. Spoken like a man who does not yet know what torture is, she said. Beatrix strode out the door. That was weird, Mark thought to himself. And what the hell does Brett Cooper want? Send him in, Mark shouted to his assistant. While she remained cool on the outside, inside Beatrix's anxiety flared. Did I really hear Mark's assistant say that name? Brett Cooper? What the hell is he doing here? Beatrix's mind reeled. What could Mark personally be expecting for him? It could only be something completely idiotic, which is just great to add to my already long list. Beatrix smiled tightly, concealing her irritation. I've pretty much said all I have to say for now. I don't want to keep your next appointment waiting. She stood to leave. You don't know what your father is here to discuss? Mark asked, somewhat surprised, but also smug to see Beatrix thrown off for once. She's always talking down to me like I don't know what I'm doing. Mark smirked to himself. You know what they say about glass houses? Glass houses are dumb or something like that. Beatrix didn't skip a beat. I didn't say that. I'll just let him explain it to you. Beatrix covered. The only thing worse than Mark DeLillo is Mark DeLillo when he thinks he has the upper hand, which is most of the time, but it's not usually over me. I can't let him think I don't know why my dad is here. Beatrix thought. Well, thanks for stopping by. Mark smiled and waved goodbye to Beatrix. Beatrix sniffed, annoyed, and quickly marched out of Mark's office. Go ahead and send in Brett Cooper, Mark instructed his assistant. The assistant nodded and left. As soon as the door closed behind her, she hurried to the elevator. She pressed the down button to the lobby, and then turned to look out the glass wall that showed a towering view of the building from above. There on the first floor, Beatrix spotted Brett hanging around and checking his watch. Beatrix frowned at the sight of her father. What business does he have standing in the lobby of Mark DeLillo's office? To see Mark, really? Brett was dressed in an expensive suit, and his hair was neatly combed. He looked like he wanted to make an especially good impression. He glanced at his watch again. Beatrix walked out of the elevator and made a beeline for her father. What are you doing here? Beatrix hissed when she reached him. Brett looked up and jumped a little at the sight of Beatrix glaring at him with her arms folded irritably. Beatrix! He exclaimed in surprise. What are you doing here? I invited Mark DeLillo to the Nevin family's party for Georgina Crawford's birthday. Beatrix answered impatiently. You know, because I'm the one actually working with Mark. So again, what are you doing here since you don't have the same excuse? Brett stammered as he looked at Beatrix's scowling face. He did not expect to see Beatrix during his visit with Mark, so he had not prepared a fake cover story to tell in this scenario. He could not tell her the truth, which was that he was there to discuss Beatrix and Mark's relationship. She will not take well to the news that I'm meddling in her business with Mark. Best to tell her anything else. Brett sighed inwardly. It's so much harder being a parent these days. You try to set your daughters up with a rich young man for their own good, and what do? Do they thank you for making their lives easier? No. They just get all huffy about it. Brett cleared his throat and put on his most convincing, stern frown to match Beatrix's. It's not a child's business to know everything their parents are up to. I can go anywhere I please without explaining myself to you. Beatrix looked her dad up and down and laughed. He didn't even prepare an excuse in case I caught him here. It really is a race to the bottom between Mark and my dad, and I'm honestly not sure who is winning. Beatrix grumbled to herself. Just don't do anything stupid. Why do you always talk to me so disrespectfully? Do I need to teach you some manners? Brett frowned. His nervous voice was not convincing. I'll say it again. Don't do anything stupid. Beatrix smirked defiantly and sauntered away. You... Brett fumed. His daughter had insulted him and humiliated him again, and right before an important meeting, no less. She has no idea what I'm doing for her, that ungrateful girl. Just as he was about to open his mouth to teach Beatrix a lesson, he was suddenly interrupted by a gentle but firm hand on his shoulder. Mr. Cooper, Mr. DeLillo is ready for you in his office. This way, please. The assistant nodded for Brett to follow him toward the elevator. Yes, thank you. Brett nodded, letting his anger towards his daughter dissipate. Beatrix was about to walk out of the Rose Company building when another unexpected person walked up to her. Miss Cooper, the young man called out politely to get her attention. Beatrix turned to see who it was and smiled. Well, hello, Jared Nevin. Beatrix nodded. I'm just running into everyone today. You are? Jared asked, surprised. Never mind. Beatrix waved her hand lightly. You know, I was just thinking about you. I figured I would see you at Georgina's birthday party tomorrow since the Nevins are hosting. What a coincidence to run into each other now. Jared smiled agreeably. Jared Nevin. Mark's assistant addressed Jared. Jared looked from the assistant to Brett Cooper standing near him. Looks like Mark already has a guest. Jared made a quick decision and smiled politely. Sorry, I didn't mean to come at a bad time. My apologies. The assistant started to explain. It's completely fine. I'll check to see when Mark is free. It's no trouble to come back another day. Jared said reassuringly. He gave Brett a polite nod as well, then turned around to leave. Beatrix Cooper watched Jared walk away and raised an eyebrow thoughtfully. Jared seems like a much smarter guy than Mark DeLillo. I could use someone like that right about now. Before Jared walked out of the big front doors, Beatrix hurried after him. Jared, wait. Jared stopped walking and turned to look at Beatrix. Is everything all right? Running into you here, coincidentally like this, I don't know. I was just thinking, could I talk you into getting a drink? Beatrix asked with an inviting smile. Right now? Jared asked and changed the time on his phone. Jared remembered Olivia's advice to get close to Beatrix and Mark. Looks like I'm going to drink with Beatrix Cooper then, Jared thought. I guess it's not too early for a drink, but I should be the one treating you, Miss Cooper. Let's go. Aren't you old-fashioned? Beatrix laughed and followed Jared out. Just as the elevator arrived across the lobby, Brett stared after Beatrix as she left with Jared. The scene made him frown, perplexed. Jared Nevin is a very talented young man, but he's still the second son in the Nevin family, Brett thought dismissively. The Nevins always grant the position of the heir to the family business to the oldest son. It's a ridiculous way of doing things based on a bunch of outdated nonsense, sure. But that is the reality, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. No matter how close Beatrix and Jared get, it won't be worth anything. Jared Nevin is not Jake Nevin. Jared Nevin won't be inheriting any power. Mark DeLillo, on the other hand, is a much surer bet as a suitor. Beatrix mouths off to me so disrespectfully, but she's being the foolish one. Why would she waste her time with the younger Nevin brother when Mark DeLillo is a much better choice? This is why I need to get involved. Beatrix has coasted on the family money her whole life. It's time for her to do something for the family, and for me for a change. Mr. Cooper, this way, please. The assistant repeated to Brett to snap him out of his deep thoughts. They had stood near the elevators for some time. Right, thank you, Brett said as he returned to the present. He smiled and followed the assistant into the elevator. At a famous bar that was nearby, Beatrix and Jared ordered drinks. I'll have a whiskey, please, Jared said to the bartender. He gestured to Beatrix for her order. I'll have the same. Beatrix nodded. Anything to eat for you guys? The bartender asked. Miss Cooper, would you like anything? Jared asked politely. I'm buying. Beatrix peered at a small menu. The charcuterie plate, thanks, Beatrix decided. The bartender nodded and went to prepare their order. It's nice out today, Jared commented on the clear sky outside the floor-to-ceiling window. It is, Beatrix agreed. I heard it might rain soon. Really? Jared asked. I hope it doesn't ruin the birthday party. Right. Beatrix nodded, then changed the subject. How have you been lately? Busy? You could say that, Jared said coolly. He thought about how Jake had been particularly annoying with family business matters lately. I was glad that you weren't too busy to get a drink. Beatrix smiled. I think this is the first time we're hanging out. I think so, Jared nodded. The last time they had met was at the Handler Gala, but they had not spoken to each other much. Jared smiled. So why did you ask me to get a drink? Beatrix smiled coyly. I just wanted a moment of peace. Don't you want that from time to time? Yeah, Jared nodded. But usually when you really want a moment of peace, you don't want company. True, Beatrix sighed. But sometimes it's just nice to drink with someone else instead of doing it alone. I can relate to that, Jared nodded. But I also know Beatrix, Jared thought. And I know she definitely wouldn't just invite me out for a drink without a reason. So what is it? "Why are you so convinced I have a secret motive?" Beatrix asked as she innocently rested her chin on her hands. She had fun with the playful back and forth. How refreshing to finally talk to someone who has a whole brain, she thought. Jared is definitely the better choice to work with over Mark the little no. And don't even get me started on his idiot brother Jake. Jared laughed and replied, "Because of my age," Jared joked. "You know what the kids are into." Beatrix laughed. "And he's funny too. What a novelty," she thought. "He's only 17, but he's clever. Are they sure they didn't mix up Jared with some other baby at the hospital when he was born? How is he actually Jake Nevin's brother?" Beatrix could not make sense of it. "See, you're laughing because I guessed right," Jared teased. "I knew it." Okay, you've had your fun. What do you really think my reason was to ask you for a drink?" Beatrix asked with a playful smile. "I don't know." Jared shook his head. "That's why I keep asking you." Then Jared also thought to himself, "And I'm asking because Olivia will want to know." "Just guess." Beatrix nudged. Jared smiled and shrugged. "I'm not as smart as you think I am, I guess. I don't like to assume anything about other people's intentions. So the real answer is I just don't know." "That's a very wise policy." Beatrix nodded. Her eyes lit up with excitement over Jared's answer. "I don't know why. Maybe I'm just angry at Mark's arrogant, stupid decision-making skills lately. But now that I'm chatting with Jared, I feel so comfortable. Like the way you want to feel when you trust the person who's driving the car. Like you're in the hands of someone competent and reliable. I think this is how it feels when you're dealing with smart people." Beatrix thought in amazement. How did Jake Nevin get one of those in his family, but I didn't? What did he do to deserve Jared that I haven't done? "Does your family have a lot on their plate tomorrow with the party?" Beatrix asked. "Yeah, they do." Jared nodded. "Aunt Jessica has been overseas for so long, but now she's back, and it's Georgina's birthday, so it's all a big deal to my grandfather. He wants a big celebration, but I guess that's what everyone in New York does whenever there's an excuse." "I see, and that is true." Beatrix nodded. At that moment, the waiter brought their drinks and the charcuterie to their table. "Enjoy." "Thank you. Can I also get a Manhattan?" Jared added. "You got it." The waiter nodded and laughed. Beatrix giggled. "If you like sweet drinks, wouldn't it be better to order a Cosmo?" "That's too much of a kid's drink," Jared laughed. "I'm already young. I don't want people thinking I'm immature, too." Drinking Manhattans is already childish, Beatrix thought. But as she watched him confidently and sincerely enjoy it, she couldn't help but smile softly. But so what? There's just something about his honesty and intelligence that I like. So what if he likes goofy drinks? Jared smiled. He enjoyed the sweet taste of the drink, but it also packed a boozy punch. He felt relaxed and confident talking to one of the most intimidating women he had ever met. He looked her in the eye and said, "So you still haven't answered my question." Beatrix took a good long look at Jared as she sized him up. She took a sip of her whiskey and raised her own question instead. "You're 17, right?" "Yes," Jared nodded. "Why?" "Don't worry, it's strictly business." Beatrix laughed. Jared had not meant to imply it was for anything else, but the idea made his cheeks feel a little hot. He kept his cool and played along. "Oh, good." "I don't know why I brought it up." Beatrix shook her head casually. Then she hit him with an unexpected question. "What do you think of your brother being the next head of the Nevin family?" Jared was stunned, but his face remained composed. "That's quite a question," he said carefully. "If I say I can help you become the next head of the Nevin family instead of your brother, would you be willing to make a deal with me?" Beatrix asked in a low voice. "Where have I heard this before?" Jared smiled. "Mark DeLillo asked me that same question." "I bet he did, but do you really think Mark is capable of helping you?" Beatrix pushed. She had a bit of mockery in her eyes. Her disdain for Mark was so strong. It was a look of amusement and at the same time deadly. Suddenly, Jared felt a flash of recognition toward that look in Beatrix's eyes. I've seen that before. That's the exact look Olivia gets sometimes. I could almost say she's sitting across from me right now. It's so similar. It's like she's calm and collected, totally unflappable, but powerful, and could crush anything in a second. Kind of mysterious also. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Beatrix asked Jared, amused by the expression on his face. If she knew he had been reminded of Olivia, she would not have been pleased. "Nothing," Jared said and quickly looked away. He took another sip of his drink. "I was just thinking about what you proposed." "Have you and Mark DeLillo known each other for a long time?" Beatrix asked. "Not that long," Jared replied. "Have you?" "Not very long either, but sometimes you don't need that long to see a person clearly and get the idea." Beatrix frowned with disdain. "Mark is not capable of the things that I can do for you. You know that I'm an ally of Mark's, so you probably shouldn't be telling me this," Jared said as he set down his cocktail and raised his eyebrows at Beatrix. "You know I'm right," Beatrix said. She tapped her beautifully manicured fingernails on the table. "Otherwise, I wouldn't say it to you." Jared did not say anything, but did not look away from Beatrix either. Beatrix smiled and laughed confidently. "You should align yourself with me. You know I'm better than Mark." "You and Mark are supposed to be aligned with each other," Jared said. "You really shouldn't be saying this now." "I'm just making a smart decision when I see one," Beatrix said. "I believe you are a smart person and want what I can actually do for you." Beatrix picked her glass of whiskey up again and took a sip. She set it back down and glanced expectantly at Jared. He's not going to say what he wants, Beatrix thought as Jared continued to say nothing in response. She opened her purse and pulled out a business card with her number on it. She slid it over to Jared across the table. "I've thrown a lot at you just now. Go ahead and take some time to think it over. I'll see you at the party tomorrow." "Thanks. See you then," Jared nodded. Beatrix stood to leave, her eyes still on Jared. "Sorry, I have one more question to ask you." "What is it?" Jared asked as he also stood up. He confidently held Beatrix's gaze. "What do you think of Olivia?" Beatrix asked innocently. She did not hint at any of her hatred for the oldest Johnson daughter. Jared's heart skipped a beat. He had been doing well with Beatrix's questions, but this one felt the most to him like a trap. If I say something positive about Olivia, it might make Beatrix not trust me, and she'll keep her guard up. But if I say anything negative about Olivia, that just feels weird. It's too much of a lie. I think pretty highly of Olivia and honestly have nothing bad to say, he thought, perplexed. Beatrix said nothing and smiled faintly. Her eyes locked onto Jared as she waited and searched for any hint of a giveaway to his true feelings in his facial expressions. "What do I think of Olivia?" Jared repeated, buying himself some time and also coming off like he didn't think about her all that often. He thought carefully, then answered, "She is a very successful businesswoman." "Right." Beatrix nodded at Jared and smiled. "Thank you for your answer, Jared. I'll see you later." "See ya, take care." Jared nodded and watched Beatrix leave. Once he saw that Beatrix had disappeared out of the doors, Jared leaned back into the lounge sofa and sighed with deep relief. His back felt a little sweaty, and he realized the muscles in his shoulders were practically up in his neck from the tension. I haven't felt this kind of pressure since I first met Olivia, Jared thought. No wonder Olivia thinks she's a legitimate threat. Beatrix Cooper is one of the best I've ever seen, and it's a little terrifying. She could be a real match for Olivia Johnson. Still at the bar, Jared immediately took out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello?" A woman answered on the other end. "I think she took the bait," Jared said. His pleased smile came through in his voice over the phone. "Amazing work, Jared. Now you just have to close," Olivia said encouragingly. No matter what happens, you can't let Beatrix slip through your fingers. We're getting too close now." "Don't worry," Jared reassured Olivia as he picked up Beatrix's business card off the table. "She bit down pretty hard on the bait, I'd say. She won't be slipping away. I'm sure of it." Jared replayed some of his interactions with Beatrix in his mind. Beatrix is acting tough, but I know how to play that game. It's my exact move. "That's the attitude I'm looking for," Olivia laughed. She picked up an invitation card from the table and said, "Your family is hosting a party tomorrow?" "That's right, it's for Georgina's birthday. It's her first birthday back in the US, actually, so our grandfather has decided to make it a giant celebration, of course." Jared sighed. "Are you planning on coming to the party?" "I got the invitation," Olivia said and put the card back down on the table. "I'm not going to go, though. I'm so busy right now that I barely even have time to sleep. This is the last thing I can add to my plate right now. I hope it's fun for you, though." Jared nodded understandingly. "It's okay if you don't come." He glanced at his phone to check the time. "I've got to go, but if there's anything else to report, call me and I'll do the same." "Thanks, Jared," Olivia said and hung up the phone. Jared put his phone away and asked for the bill. He also asked the waiter to box up the untouched charcuterie to go. Jared stood outside the bar with his box of packed cheese and frowned. It was much warmer outside than it was in the air-conditioned bar, and much less pleasant than it looked through the window. "It's really hot," Jared muttered and walked in the opposite direction. "Miss Cooper," a driver of a private car that idled nearby glanced questioningly at the rearview mirror for Beatrix's directions. "Follow him," Beatrix ordered coldly as she watched Jared's back grow more distant down the street. "Yes, miss." The driver nodded. They followed Jared all the way home, and only then did Beatrix give the order to stop tailing him. "Am I being paranoid?" Beatrix wondered. "Jared is a little off, but I can't tell what is wrong with him. He is so easy to talk to and refreshingly smart. Dare I say fun? Jared is definitely more worthy of my cooperation than Mark DeLillo. But if I really want an alliance with Jared Nevin, I'm still going to do my due diligence." On the other side of town in Mark DeLillo's office, Mark had no idea what Beatrix Cooper was up to at that moment. "Dealing with this Beatrix dad who just showed up uninvited is giving me a headache," Mark moaned inwardly. "Mr. DeLillo, I don't know. What do you think?" Brett asked after finishing his long speech. He blinked at Mark expectantly as he waited for a reply. Mark was so angry by what Brett just suggested that he almost threw up. The suggestion sickened him. It was so offensive. Who do the Coopers think they are? How dare they suggest Beatrix marry me? Are they out of their minds? It's absolutely delusional. Me, marry Beatrix. I would never stoop that low to marry anyone from the Coopers, much less her. She's insufferable. Mark was outraged, but he didn't want to blow up his alliance with the Coopers now that they were working together either. He stiffened, trying to hang on to his composure as he replied, "Beatrix is indeed a very good coworker and friend, but I'm not thinking about any of that for the time being." He tried his hardest to sound polite. "Are you concerned that Beatrix is a little too old for you?" Brett asked apologetically. 20 and 18 seem like a big difference at your age, but it quickly disappears once you're both a little older. No, it's not that. That is not what I'm saying," Mark replied, struggling to stay calm. "I'm just getting my career launched, and a lot of big things are happening right now. I'm not looking to get married and settle down right at this moment. It's not a good time for me," Mark said. "And not ever, as far as the Coopers are concerned." Mark added silently to himself. Brett laughed. "Oh, Mr. DeLillo, you're very funny." He smiled. "You should really give Beatrix a chance. Think about it. She has been smart ever since she was young. With her on your side, she could help you take your career to even greater heights." Mark could barely contain his frustration. He hesitated a moment, then quickly said in a rush, This isn't an emergency right now, and I'm busy with emergencies only, like code red level emergencies for the foreseeable future. Let's take some time to think about it more carefully. If you don't have anything else to discuss today, I'll see you out. But marriage is so important. That's exactly why I came to speak to you personally, Brett argued. As he heard Mark's dismissal of his Beatrix plan, Brett became more anxious. Maybe Beatrix and Mark really are completely uninvolved. He doesn't sound interested at all. How can this be possible? The future of the Cooper family and my own future hinges on this. This can't be the end of it. I can't leave our future entirely in someone else's hands. Brett Cooper became more and more flustered as he thought about it. Mr. Cooper, does Beatrix even know you're here asking me about this marriage idea? Mark asked, somewhat bewildered. Well, parents deciding to arrange a marriage is all that is required. We don't need her permission, Brett said. Besides, what could she possibly object to? You're young with an incredible career already. Why wouldn't she like that? Mark pursed his lips as he grew increasingly frustrated. Beatrix liking this scenario is not the point. I do not like this scenario. Me, Mark thought. He took a breath, then added, Let's just table this for now and circle back sometime in the future. Do you feel that Beatrix is not good enough for you? Is that it? Brett frowned suddenly. He knew that the Roses and the Coopers had an alliance. The Cooper family was a famous family in New York City. Why wouldn't Beatrix be good enough for Mark DeLillo? Brett wondered, offended. Mark did not deny it, but remained silent. The pause was extremely tense and awkward. Finally, a knock on the door broke the silence. Mr. DeLillo, sir, you have another meeting about to start. I know, thanks, Mark said. He tried not to sound too relieved. He jumped up and buttoned his jacket. Mr. Cooper, as you just heard, I have to go to another meeting. Please excuse me. Mark quickly walked out of his office, leaving Brett behind. Hey, wait just a moment, Brett protested. But he saw Mark was already too far away. Brett was even more worried about the whole situation. Initially, he thought that Beatrix's looks and personality would be pretty appealing to a young, ambitious man like Mark DeLillo. He also thought the prominence of the Cooper family in New York City would be appealing as well. We've hit some bumps in the road recently, but that's not going to be forever. How does that overshadow our history as one of the top families in town? Mark DeLillo should be delighted to marry Beatrix. As Brett watched Mark retreat down the hall, he frowned. If this plan does not work, I have to think of other ways to make it happen. As Brett walked out of the office, he felt a strong, renewed sense of determination. This is about the future of the entire Cooper family. As a member of this family, I am obligated to help the Cooper family survive, no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, Beatrix returned home and immediately received a video call from Melanie Cooper. Hey, sis, what did you do today? Melanie asked. Nothing, Beatrix answered in a bored voice. She checked the time on her phone and mentally calculated the time difference. What about you? It should still be in the middle of the night there. Why are you calling so late? I miss you, dum-dum, Melanie smiled. I have a surprise for you soon. A surprise? What surprise? Beatrix asked with a pleased grin. It's a secret, Melanie said. She heard a knock on the door. I have to go, but we'll talk soon. All right, bye, Beatrix replied, confused. Why are you in such a hurry? It's nothing, Melanie giggled. I'm gonna go now. Gotta get some sleep. Okay, good night, Beatrix sighed skeptically. Across the world, Melanie hung up the phone and then ran to the door to answer the knocking. Hello, we're here to take you to the airport, a driver said from the doorway and tipped his hat. Great, Melanie answered and pointed to 2 packed bags behind her. This is all the luggage. The driver took her luggage and carried it out to the car. We'll be waiting outside. Melanie grabbed her purse and locked the door on her way out. Melanie could not help but smile. I can't wait to see Beatrix's face when I personally surprise her in New York City. We're gonna conquer the whole city together. They won't know what hit them. I don't know how long I can keep this up. Olivia was so exhausted from working at the park company late into the night that she tiptoed into her room, fell into her bed, and instantly fell asleep. Morgana stirred awake, rubbing her eyes. "Oh, you're back?" She frowned at Olivia's unconscious face. "Olivia, are you sleeping?" Olivia had been working such long hours recently, but whenever Morgana was with her to offer extra protection with her insect abilities, she couldn't keep up. Olivia always sent her home early to get some rest, while Morgana grumbled about Olivia having the heart of a sleepless worker ant or a machine. Besides, Olivia had the Pluto Group and Violet Cartwright to protect her when she was in the office. It wasn't worth torturing Morgana to keep her in the office late. Morgana tilted her head and looked closer at Olivia's face in a beam of moonlight that shone through her window. Her breathing was heavy and steady. Morgana frowned and muttered, "Why are you working so hard, Olivia? Why?" But Olivia did not stir. She was already deep asleep. Morgana sighed and put her head back on her own pillow, closing her eyes. "Forget it. Get your rest." Full moon was bright, and New York had an unusually sleepy night itself, with barely anyone up in the many skyscraper offices or walking around on the streets. But one of the few people still working hard was Chris Jones. He poured himself a hot cup of coffee and inhaled the aroma deeply, as if willing the cup to give him more energy than he knew it could. Sven looked over reports for Chris's underworld organization on a tablet, frowning. "Chris, the activity for this month has dropped a bit. It's unusually low." Chris took a sip of coffee. "Do you know the reason, or do we have to investigate?" Sven scrolled on his screen and raised his eyebrows. "It seems like there is a new assassin group on the scene in New York City. The price to hire out is lower and the action is faster. Plus, the pay and other benefits for the members themselves are better than ours. Actually, they're the best in town." Sven looked troubled. "Why does operating an underworld assassin organization have to be so stressful? We never go over documents thinking, this was great, we're just chugging along." Chris was thoughtful. He downed half his cup of coffee, gearing up to solve their problem. "Tell me about how they treat their hires." Sven rubbed his chin as he read. "It seems like the hires are eager to work with the experts they already have there. Top talent begets other top talent. Their cut is higher. They're less strict with their attendance. The price they charge to maintain weapons is lower than normal." Chris nodded. It makes sense for them to make moves like this when they're new on the scene, then pull back. "I don't know if we have to worry yet." Sven's jaw dropped. "Whoa, what is this?" "What's wrong?" Chris moved to Sven's side and looked over his shoulder. Sven blinked. "They're offering the potential to be placed in above-board jobs if they're interested. How can they be so reckless? This is an illegal organization filled with professional assassins and thieves. There's the underworld and overworld, and never the twain shall mix, Chris. What the hell? Who would even want that?" Chris touched the screen himself, scrolling. "Are a lot of people applying?" he asked. Sven shook his head. "Probably not, right? Only an idiot would come here because they want to get some other job." Sven clicked something and his eyes widened. "Okay, there are people who want to apply after all. Actually, there are a ton." Chris read the screen and suddenly began to laugh. Sven scratched his head anxiously. "Chris, what are you laughing at? Someone is trying to steal our business, and it looks like they're doing a pretty good job. Business has been so good for us. I didn't think we would have to deal with a threat like this anytime soon." Chris tapped the screen. "Take a look at the name, Sven." He stood up and finished his coffee. "The Nether Group." Sven read the name, but didn't know why Chris found it funny. He was at a loss. Chris began to pace around the room. "It's unusual, mysterious, a little romantic. I think the person who named this group is someone we know. Who do you think that sounds like?" Sven frowned, thinking. Thinking of that name, I got nothing, but the way you describe it sounds like you think it's Olivia? Chris sighed. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And I don't like the thought of that. Sven absorbed this and asked tentatively, Well, what do you think about how much of our business she's eating up? Chris waved his hand nonchalantly. What's the difference between me making money or my fiancé making money? Seems like either is good for us. Sven winced, shaking his head. He was unconvinced. But Chris, even if you don't care, it doesn't mean the other groups don't care. Somebody's going to come for them. Chris looked out the window at the city, thinking, but did not say anything. Sven continued. Besides, whether the nether group is your fiancé or not is just our guess. Shouldn't you ask her yourself before we act on that idea? Sven inhaled, feeling awkward. And then maybe remind her that if a new organization wants to make a bunch of new moves, if it's not possible, but it will probably face a response, there's no way that everyone will just sit quietly and watch her do this. Chris nodded, patting Sven on the back. Okay, I got it. I'll go see her tomorrow. Hey, Chris, speaking of beautiful women. Sven tried to act casual. Chris frowned. Where's this going? Sven traced circles on the desk with his finger. Do you think you could ask Vera to come back and visit New York City sometime? Or even stay here? Isn't Rome stable now? Chris rolled his eyes. I assume you're asking strictly for business reasons, huh, Sven? Sven laughed. I'm getting the sense you don't want to talk about this. I know she's your cousin, so tell me if I'm crossing a line. Sven knew that Chris had understood him perfectly and was just being touchy about the subject. Chris huffed. Well, sure, Rome has temporarily stabilized, but there are some matters that have come up in London for the time being, so I've asked her to head there to handle them. She will come back next month. Roger that, Sven replied, stretching his arms to keep up the pretense that this was not an uncomfortable conversation. He cracked his knuckles and dug into some new spreadsheets on his tablet. Chris tossed his coffee cup in the trash and headed for the door, looking at Sven's back. Sven, he said. What's up? Sven kept tapping away as he casually answered. Is there something else? Chris looked up at the ceiling, wishing he did not have to say this, but he couldn't watch his friend sink deeper into his own feelings. You should know that Vera has someone she likes. Sven's fingers paused, and he let the tablet rest on the table. Chris cleared his throat. I've known her for so long, and you should know this about her personality. Once she decides she likes someone... I know, Sven interrupted Chris. And that's fine if she has her eye on somebody else for now. I like her, but I've known her for a really long time too, Chris. I'll wait. Chris looked at the back of Sven's head, not knowing what to say. He did not expect that response. Sven turned around and sighed, looking at Chris seriously. I've liked her for a really, really long time now. It's to the point where liking her and no one else has just become a sort of habit. So whatever happens, it's just a fact of life that I'll always like her. I don't know. Don't worry about it. Sven smiled weakly at his friend. Feeling a little bit of hope about it every once in a while is fun, you know? It breaks the monotony of feeling disappointed all the time. He laughed. I know your whole situation is pretty different. I wouldn't expect you to understand something like this. Chris knew that Sven and Vera were both people in his life that he truly cherished. Vera had someone in her heart for the time being, but she had been forced to separate from him. And Sven, Chris knew he had been secretly in love with Vera since they were young, and after so many years, it had never changed. Maybe what Sven said was true. After so many years, he had just gotten used to having unrequited feelings for her. Chris smiled. You're right. I don't understand. You know me really well, too. Sven laughed. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm saying this to make you comfort me. Not just repeat what I say. Come on, dude. Chris turned to leave, glancing back at Sven. No matter who asks her out, I'll always be rooting for you. Sven smiled sadly. Thanks, man. Chris walked out the door, leaving Sven alone. I'll never have what Chris and Olivia have. But maybe that's for the best, he thought sadly. Maybe I don't deserve love after all. Despite Olivia's exhaustion, she got up a few minutes before her alarm, her mind already racing with what she had to do that day. Morgana, bleary-eyed and grumpy, came with Olivia to the park company. Olivia strode confidently into her office and greeted Violet Cartwright with Morgana practically stumbling after, holding a cup of coffee. Olivia smiled brightly. Good morning, Violet. What's on the docket for today? Violet consulted her tablet. You have 2 meetings this afternoon. One with your park executives, and the other is a video meeting with Jeremy Garibaldi and your father. She scrolled on her screen. Also, today is the last day of the land auction in the new city zone. We have to submit a bid today. Olivia nodded. Got it. Anything else? Violet tapped on her screen. Tonight is the Nevins party for Georgina Crawford. I sent you the invitation earlier. Olivia shook her head. I'm not going to that. There's too much else to do. Please send my regrets. Violet nodded. Will do. Anything else? Olivia asked. Violet lowered her voice. There is also a meeting of the Nether group tonight. Many prospective members have already prepared the points. Olivia tapped her own forehead. That's right, I almost forgot. Can you remind me about it again before we get off work tonight? Violet nodded. Of course. She tapped on her screen. Olivia exhaled. Okay, now is that it for today? Violet smiled. That's it for now. She gestured to 3 stacks of documents on Olivia's desk. This one on the left needs to be handled today. In the middle, these are documents coming back to you with the revisions made after your feedback. And this last one on the right is a new stack to review, but it is not urgent. Olivia nodded, taking this in. All right, got it. Violet took a step back with an air of finality. And now I'll let you get to your work. I will go check in with the assistant group. If anything comes up, give me a call. Olivia sat behind her desk. Okay. She flipped open a document to begin her day. You're the best, Violet. Violet smiled. Thanks, boss. She turned and left the office. Olivia read the document and was interrupted by a loud snore. Morgana had passed out soundly on the sofa. Olivia laughed softly and went back to work. She was used to Morgana occasionally turning her body and smacking her lips as she muttered a few words in her sleep. We must protect the queen, the honey. Olivia shook her head and laughed again. She muttered, maybe that's been her secret all along. Morgana is piloted by bees. Olivia made a note in the document she was looking over, shut it, and then pulled the next one toward her. On the 10th floor of the New York City Chamber of Commerce building, Jake Nevin hung up a call and frowned. Olivia is out of her mind. His assistant was worried. Jake, what's wrong? Jake started to pace, annoyed. Her assistant called. She said she would not be attending the party tonight. This is Georgina Crawford's first birthday in the States. Grandfather said that this was such a big, important event. But Olivia wasn't going to attend? Who does she think she is? The assistant was at a loss. I don't know. That was rhetorical, Jake yelled. Damn it. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Although Jake thought that Mark, his partner, was doing well with his business this season, he was surprised by Olivia. It seemed she was always somehow one step ahead. Jake wished that this was not the case. He thought that he and Mark were such a dream team. They should be able to best Olivia at this point. Tonight, he originally wanted to keep an eye on Olivia when she came to the party. He had already arranged for several of his men to be there to gather information. But now she was choosing not to go. This was too much. Jake's phone buzzed. He looked at the name and hastily picked up. Mr. DeLillo, hello. On the other end of the line, Mark sighed. Jake Nevin, long time no see. Mark thought that Jake was incredibly annoying and he hated talking to him, but he needed to for his own plans to work out. He reminded himself to be patient and deal with listening to Jake's whiny voice. Jake frowned, suddenly feeling suspicious. "I'm happy to hear from you, but why did you suddenly think of calling me? Did you know I just got word that Olivia's not coming tonight?" Mark sighed. "I did know that, but I'm still confused why she would make that decision." He expected Jake would be in a bad mood and smiled to himself, prepared to manipulate Jake like a little toy marionette. "It's a party at the Nevins. That's a huge event in New York City. No matter how busy you are, you should come if you're invited. It makes no sense." Jake snorted lightly. He didn't want to admit it, but he was very pleased to hear Mark say this. "So what's going on?" Mark asked. Jake felt his face get hot as he thought about it. "She's just being an arrogant loser per usual. She said no to the party just to spit in my face. She's shameless. And she didn't even have the guts to call me herself. Her assistant called me over the phone. She's basically calling me and the whole Nevin family losers. Why do so many people like her?" Mark's eyes flashed with a devious look. Everything was perfectly set up for his plan. Sure, it had been Beatrix's idea, but as the one in charge, it was his idea to say yes to her idea. "I have an idea," Mark said slowly, enjoying teasing Jake. After a pause, Jake jumped in. "What is it? Are you still there?" Mark laughed condescendingly. "Oh, Jake, you will be so excited about this. Since you are the director of the Chamber of Commerce, you have the power to investigate her business." "Okay, I like where this is going," Jake replied, actually completely unsure of where this was going. Mark leaned back in his plush leather desk chair. "If you announce a big public investigation into her company's drive for donations to animal shelters, whether you turn up any wrongdoing with the funds or not, that will plant doubt about her in all of our business peers in the city." Jake huffed. "That's good. But what does this have to do with the party?" Mark continued. "Coming to the Nevins party would be a great way for her to save face. So if you start this investigation, I think that will force her to attend." Jake's eyes lit up. "Oh, this is a great idea. I'll call her right now." Mark smiled deviously. "Perfect. I'll leave you to it and I'll talk to you tonight." Jake nodded and hung up the phone. He immediately called Olivia and told her he was planning to investigate the park company's charity fundraiser. "I got it," Olivia laughed. "You're really going to great lengths to get me to your party, Jake." Jake's face fell. How did she know this was about the party? He thought angrily to himself. Damn it, Mark. Olivia rolled her eyes. What's wrong? Is nobody else coming to your party and you need to drum up some guests? Jake gritted his teeth. No, Olivia, this is official business. I run the Chamber of Commerce and I have an obligation to investigate wrongdoing. Olivia pinched the bridge of her nose. Whatever, Jake. Since it's so important to you, I'll be there tonight. With that, she hung up the phone. Seeing that Olivia hung up on him, Jake was so angry that he wanted to shout. How did she get to be such an arrogant hag? He yelled to nobody in his office. In her own office, Olivia looked thoughtfully out the window. She knew Jake Nevin did not have the smarts to come up with an idea like that. She smiled and laughed lightly as she realized that Beatrix Cooper had finally started to make her move. This was the only thing that made Olivia look forward to tonight's party. At the same time, in another part of town, Beatrix sat in a private car, looking out the window at the scenery flying by. She thought about how Jake and Mark both hated Olivia and were probably screwing up her previous plan as she sat there. Beatrix smiled. She was excited to give Olivia a big surprise. Georgina Crawford sat beside Beatrix, pleased that her birthday party would be the most luxurious in all of New York City. She did not know that the party was already becoming a battlefield for others. She fantasized about the dress she would wear and the things people would say about how amazing her body looked. She thought that she'd look so stunning, she'd probably make someone go blind. Georgina held her phone up to Beatrix with a smirk. Beatrix, this girl is also going to be there tonight. Remember her? Beatrix raised her eyebrows at a picture of Lena. I think I do remember her from the Handler Gala. Georgina set her jaw. Yeah, she's Olivia's friend. An idiot who specializes in snatching men away from others somehow. She's not going to have a good time tonight, especially if you help me. Beatrix sighed, wishing she did not have to deal with this. Don't worry, Georgina. I am at your disposal. Georgina grinned with glee. Time to get my revenge. Olivia worked diligently until finally snapping out of her trance to realize she was desperately hungry. It was the middle of the afternoon, and she vaguely remembered that Violet had left some food for her on her desk, but it was gone. Olivia then remembered Morgana asking her if she wanted to eat, and she told Morgana that she did not. Morgana said that if Olivia didn't want it, she would eat it, but she didn't want to eat it if they waited too long and it got cold. Olivia had waved Morgana away, saying, just eat it, without looking up from her documents. Olivia sighed as the conversation echoed in her ears. So that was why she was so painfully hungry. It felt like her abdomen was eating itself. Violet entered Olivia's office and then noticed the expression on Olivia's face. What's wrong? Olivia held out a stack of finished documents. Nothing, I'm just a little hungry. Where's your lunch? Violet asked. Don't tell me. She looked at Morgana, who was playing a game on her phone on the couch. Morgana's jaw dropped indignantly. Don't look at me, it's not my fault. Olivia said she didn't want to eat because she wasn't hungry. I didn't want it to get cold. Somebody had to eat it. Violet shook her head. Maybe it would be less annoying if this didn't happen all the time. Olivia, you need to eat something. I can go get you another lunch. Olivia nodded. Okay, thank you. Violet studied Olivia's face and slumped posture. You've been working really hard since you got here. You should take a break, too. Olivia looked up with a smile. So should you. Violet rolled her eyes good-naturedly. I'm fine. Olivia stretched her arms, pointing to the documents she had handed over. Those are all ready to go. Have the assistant group distribute them. Okay, Violet replied and left the office. Morgana, feeling guilty, tentatively picked up her backpack, holding it out for Olivia. Hey, do you want any of the stuff I brought for lunch? It's mostly candy. She looked inside the bag. Well, it's all candy, but you can have some. Olivia shrugged. You know what? Sure, thank you. She stood from her desk and took the backpack, pulling out a bag of Skittles. She tried to open the bag, but it felt like she suddenly didn't have any strength. She couldn't tear the wrapper. Morgana frowned, puzzled at how Olivia seemed so frail. Here, I'll help you. She easily tore the bag open for her and handed it over. Morgana sighed, nervously looking down at the floor. Olivia, I know you're really good at what you do, and it's not my place, but you're really working yourself hard. Morgana was interrupted by a loud bang as Olivia suddenly fell, hitting her desk, then slumped to the floor. Olivia! Morgana cried and rushed to Olivia. She knelt beside her. Several people from the assistant group rushed into the room. They quickly assessed Olivia's head and neck, deciding it was okay to move her, and picked her up, carefully placing her on the sofa. Miss Johnson! Miss Johnson! One of them repeated, trying to get a response. Miss Johnson, are you all right? Olivia remembered looking into the bag of Skittles. Then everything went dark. Then this voice in the darkness saying, Miss Johnson, entered her ears. Oh, she said as she slowly opened her eyes. She could see several blurry figures peering anxiously over her. As they came into focus, the voice, still urgently repeating her name, felt clearer as well. I'm fine, she replied. Morgana heaved a sigh of relief, but she felt an awful mix of anxious, guilty, and sad. Olivia, is this because I ate your lunch? Did I make you faint? Miss Johnson, how are you feeling now?" Olivia immediately recognized that the person standing over her, dressed like a normal assistant, was one of the undercover Pluto group members on loan from Andrew Park. He looked at Olivia nervously. "It's nothing, I just feel like I have no strength," Olivia answered, shaking her head. "It's probably hypoglycemia. I need to eat. It's fine." The man looked at Morgana. "Miss Morgana, do you have anything sweet she could eat?" "Absolutely," Morgana replied and picked up the open bag of Skittles that remained mostly unspilled on Olivia's desk. She handed it over. "How about these? I also have like a buttload more candy." "This is good." The Pluto group member nodded. He fed the candies to Olivia one by one. Another Pluto group member held a cup of water out to Olivia. "Miss Johnson, here, you need some water." Olivia nodded and accepted both. She quickly felt much better after the candy and water. Morgana wrung her hands. "Olivia, how are you feeling now?" Olivia nodded. "I'm totally fine. I'll be perfect." She looked squarely at Morgana, and then at the other assistant group people in the room. "Do not tell anyone what happened today." "Of course," everyone said as they nodded. Olivia kept looking at them seriously. "You can't even tell Violet Cartwright." Morgana nodded, but the assistant group members looked more hesitant. They still answered yes, but more slowly than before. Olivia narrowed her eyes. "Remember, whoever dares to talk about this to anyone, I will send you back to Europe. There will be no discussion and no investigation. You'll just be gone." The fake assistants all answered in assent, this time more quickly. Morgana leaned over. "Olivia, are you still dizzy? Should you see a doctor or anything?" She reached out and touched the back of her hand to Olivia's forehead. Olivia shook her head, waving Morgana's hand away. "I'm fine. Really, I feel totally normal now." "But this was pretty serious," Morgana protested. She did not look comforted by what Olivia had said at all. Olivia patted Morgana's arm. "I've been sitting here working for the entire morning, not drinking water, and I didn't eat anything. I felt faint, stood up, and got dizzy. It's totally normal, and I feel better now." She looked to the others. "You guys go back and do your own thing." All of the people of the assistant group agreed dutifully and left Olivia's office. As much as they did not enjoy pretending to be office assistants, things would not be good for them if they were sent back to Andrew Park. He would certainly consider Olivia sending them back to mean that they had failed. Morgana still felt guilty and worried, despite everything Olivia had said. "Are you really all right? If I knew this would happen, I would have not eaten your lunch. I would have forced you to eat it. It just looks so delicious." "It's really nothing," Olivia insisted. "Okay," Morgana nodded, still frowning. "Do you want to sleep for a while? I can stay here to keep you company and keep a lookout for you." She knelt beside the sofa. "I won't be noisy, except when Violet returns with food, then I'll wake you up." Olivia smiled. She thought that Morgana's gaze looked pitiful. She knew that if she did not rest, Morgana would not stop fretting. And besides, the idea of getting some rest did sound wonderful. She allowed her head to sink back into the couch cushion and closed her eyes. Morgana saw the rise and fall of Olivia's chest and thought that she couldn't possibly already be asleep. "Olivia, did you really fall asleep that fast?" she whispered. Olivia did not respond. She started to feel panicked and worried that maybe Olivia had fainted again. "Olivia!" She called out louder, but Olivia did not open her eyes. "Olivia!" Olivia's eyes opened and she frowned. "What? Morgana?" "Sorry," Morgana whispered again. "Nothing." Olivia smiled, closing her eyes. "I'm fine. I will be fine very soon." "Yes, got it," Morgana replied and did not speak any more. After about 20 minutes, Violet Cartwright entered the office. The moment she entered, she saw Olivia sleeping soundly on the sofa. Morgana was also asleep as she knelt on the floor beside her with her arms draped around Olivia and her head resting on Olivia's stomach. They breathed in unison. Violet smiled, laughing softly. She couldn't believe they both fell asleep like that. She got a suit jacket from the assistant group and draped it over the two girls. There was a soft knock at the door and it opened. Violet turned to see who it was and saw the intern, Lily Miller, peek her head in. "Miss Johnson?" "Shh." Violet held a finger over her lips and walked out of the office with Lily, shutting the door behind them. "You shouldn't just walk in there," she scolded. "What do you need?" "Chris Jones is here," Lily replied. "He wants to see the chairman." As she said that, footsteps approached them. It was Chris, who naturally wasn't waiting for permission to enter. Violet gave him a nod. "Chris Jones." "Violet?" He nodded back. Chris knew that Violet was with the Pluto group and was relieved that someone so adept was by Olivia's side. "Thank you, Lily," Violet said, gesturing for Lily to leave. Lily wanted to stay, but could not think of an excuse. She begrudgingly nodded her head and left them. Violet spoke to Chris in a low voice. "Olivia is asleep on her sofa." Chris was surprised. "Olivia's asleep during the day? At work? That's really not like her." He frowned, concerned. What was wrong with Olivia? Chris, feeling his adrenaline start to pump, rushed into Olivia's office, expecting to find the worst. But as soon as he entered, he let out a long sigh of relief. Instead of the gruesome images he had playing in his head, he found Olivia sleeping on the couch, with Morgana also asleep and cuddled against her. He saw two suit jackets carefully draped over the sleeping girls, and imagined this was Violet's handiwork. Chris couldn't help but smile. He was surprised that he felt a little jealous of this type of female friendship. He couldn't imagine falling asleep so comfortably with one of his guy friends. He found it quite sweet. Chris walked softly to the couch, and looking at Olivia's peaceful, beautiful face, he realized that it had been too long since he last saw her. Seeing her again made him feel like he'd been stranded in the desert, dying of thirst, and finally came upon an oasis with some cool water to drink. His heart ached as he wished it could be him with Olivia, cuddled against one another, sleeping away an afternoon. But neither of them had time for that these days. Olivia's brows knitted together in her sleep. He knew she had a lot on her shoulders at that moment, and he could see the dark circles under her eyes. Of course, he was desperately busy that day too. He had finally found a moment to come visit her, so what a cruel twist of fate to find her asleep. He bent down and gently ran his fingers over her hair. From the doorway, Violet had been watching, but that intimate gesture made her turn away. Chris stood and looked at Violet, gesturing to the suit jacket with a questioning face. "One of the assistants," she whispered. Chris took off his own coat and gingerly replaced the suit jacket that was laid over Olivia with his own. He was careful in doing so, and Olivia did not stir. Chris took one last longing look at Olivia and carried the suit jacket out of the office, handing it to Violet as he gently shut the door behind him. The corner of Violet's mouth twitched in a smile. Was he jealous of the man who wore this jacket? She thought silently to herself, amused. As Chris walked farther from Violet, she called out, "Mr. Jones, do you want me to tell the chairman that you were here?" Chris turned back with a small smile. "She'll know." Violet chuckled to herself, then couldn't help but sigh. These young people and their slow burn relationships, she thought to herself. Such restraint, and for what? Jeff Dreyer passed by and saw Violet holding a man's suit jacket in her arms as she gazed down the hallway in a daze. "What are you looking at?" he asked, annoyed. Violet smirked. "Why do you care so much?" Jeff rolled his eyes, his cheeks reddening. "Forget it," he mumbled. Violet narrowed her eyes at his face, stopping him in his tracks. "Jeff, you have something in your teeth." He looked down, clamping his mouth shut, embarrassed. There was nothing in his teeth at all, but Violet had wanted to take him down a peg or two. Violet grinned, then put on a stern voice. "Come on, Dreyer, this is a workplace." She strode away from him and entered her office. "Oh, come on now, Violet." Jeff huffed as flustered. He hurried to his own office to check his teeth. From the other side of the office, Lily Miller saw Jeff and Violet's exchange with interest. She had long heard that Violet Cartwright and Jeff Dwyer did not have a good relationship. Now she had seen proof of that for herself. She was excited to report this to her boss and slunk off to find some privacy. An hour later, Olivia woke up on her own. She felt comfortable and relaxed and realized Morgana had drooled on her blouse. She laughed. Morgana woke up groggy. "Hey, shh," she muttered, "trying to sleep." Olivia grinned. "I need to get up, sorry." Violet entered the office and was excited to see Olivia awake. "Good morning, boss," she said, even though it was just after sunset outside the windows. She turned on a couple lamps, causing Morgana to moan and burrow into the couch under Chris's jacket. Violet squinted at Olivia, trying to assess whether she was doing better than she had been earlier. "Do you feel better? Can I get you anything to eat or drink?" "Yes," Olivia replied. "I'm realizing I'd really like some easy comfort food like oatmeal." "Coming right up," Violet answered and hurried away. Olivia took a few steps, realizing she felt much better than she had earlier. Her legs felt strong. She clenched her hands and fists, and they felt much more capable as well. She smiled bitterly at her foolish overexertion before. It had been a long time since she'd made that mistake, but she had really exhausted herself and wasn't paying attention to what she needed. She suddenly had a realization. It was a familiar feeling in this life, but in her previous life, she thought she'd never done it before. In that previous version of everything, she never cared about anything enough to work so hard. She certainly needed to strike more of a balance this time around, but she felt grateful to have so many passions and outlets for them. She thought about that previous version of herself and what she would think of her if she knew her. She shook her head. She would think she was a pretty materialistic heiress, unconcerned with much beyond spending money. She tried to think about what she had been doing at this time of year at this age in her last life, but she couldn't remember. The feeling was alarming. The memory had become too distant. Out of the corner of her eye, Olivia noticed the coat over Morgana was familiar. She looked closer and realized it was Chris's. She lifted a sleeve that hung to the floor. She touched her cheek to the rough wool. She took a deep breath. It smelled like him. "He came," she whispered to herself. Violet entered the room at that moment carrying a bowl of oatmeal. She looked at Olivia holding the sleeve of Chris's jacket and nodded. Violet recalled with a smile that Chris had predicted Olivia would know that the coat belonged to him. "Ah, yes, he did come and stop by just now." Olivia frowned, a new concern crossing her mind. "Did he say anything?" Violet shook her head. "No, I believe he just wanted to see you." Olivia smiled and took the bowl of oatmeal. "Can you give me my phone? I'll give him a call." "You should eat first," Violet pressed. Olivia rolled her eyes but knew Violet was right. "Okay." She sat at her desk and stirred the oatmeal. As she scooped up a spoonful, she was startled by a cry. "Food!" Morgana shouted from the couch, sitting up. Olivia couldn't help but laugh. "Oh my God, your nose is better than a dog's." Morgana laughed. She tried to stand and sat back down. My legs are still asleep." "Take it easy," Olivia grinned. "Hey, your hair is sticking up. It looks sort of like cat ears." Morgana's hand shot to her hair, trying to smooth it, but making more of a mess. "So I'm like a dog and a cat, what else?" "Well, you did drool on me, so is that like one of those lizards that spits?" Olivia frowned, thinking. Morgana lit up. "Oh, about 1,000,000 different insects do that. I'll send you a list." Olivia finally ate her bite of oatmeal. When the hot oatmeal slid down into her stomach, she felt warm strength radiate to every part of her body. "Oh my God," she said as she took another bite. "I really, really needed this." Morgana looked concerned. "Olivia, why don't you go home and rest when you're done eating? I think that's what you need, too." "It's fine. I have stuff I need to do." Olivia looked determined as a hint of her fighting spirit flashed across her eyes. Among the other things Olivia was gearing up for, she knew she had a tough battle waiting for her that night at the Nevin family party. She absolutely could not afford to lose. Night fell over the historic Nevin family manor, and it glittered with lights. The long driveway and street beyond it were filled with luxury cars. Luxurious golden decorations made the front of the house tantalizingly festive, promising that the hosts had gone all out indoors. The families and friends of New York's upper crust were all represented, and all dressed to the nines. In a long formal dress with flawless makeup, Georgina Crawford stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor. She took confident strides to the railing overlooking the grand living room of the first floor, and the immense crowd gathered in her name. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. It was her 18th birthday, and she was undoubtedly the star of the entire night. "Georgina?" Her mother's gentle voice sounded behind her. "Mom?" Georgina turned around to see Jessica Nevin smile. "Honey, you are going to knock them dead." Her mom smiled. But suddenly, as she took in her daughter's beauty, a darkness began to settle over her face. "Georgina, before you make your debut, there's something important I have to tell you." Georgina looked at her mother apprehensively. What could she possibly have to warn her about that was so important it must be said right at this moment? "This is my big night, Mom. Why do you have to stress me out like this?" Georgina stomped her foot. Jessica took a deep breath. "I just want to say, sweetheart, that after today you'll officially be an adult. I think you should try to not be so petty." Georgina frowned. Okay, I guess," she replied, but she was clearly offended. "What are you referring to?" Jessica shook her head and smiled. "Just some general words of wisdom, honey. Happy birthday. You look so beautiful." Jessica's heart swelled. She thought about how much Georgina looked like herself when she was young. Georgina's irritation melted at the adoration on her mom's face. Jessica reflected on how she'd heard people tell her to appreciate her youth countless times, and every time she had rolled her eyes and thought it was just useless advice from old people. But she knew now how valuable that advice truly was. Georgina playfully smirked. "Thank you, Mom. I love you." She looked out over the crowd. "It's going to be a good birthday, because tonight I'm finally going to win Frances Handler." Jessica took Georgina's hands. "I believe you can do that if you want to. But there's no hurry. Today is your day. You just need to enjoy yourself and enjoy everyone's jealous eyes." Georgina nodded. Yeah. Despite what Jessica had said, she had already made up her mind. She wanted to use Frances's love to put a crown on her head, and she wanted that damn Lena to cry in the corner. That would be a perfect victory, and a perfect ending to her 18th birthday. Jessica placed Georgina's hand on her arm. "It's time for you to make your entrance. I'll take you downstairs. I think all your guests must be growing impatient to see how beautiful you look tonight." Georgina grinned. "I think so too." Jessica led her to the stairs. They slowly descended together, and a hush fell over the crowd as they appeared in front of everyone. At that moment, they stepped into the light of a chandelier above the staircase. At the same time, the live music stopped, then started up again, playing a happy birthday song. The whole crowd sang along with the music, wishing Georgina a happy birthday. She basked in their attention, smiling bashfully. The song ended in a big cheer as everyone shouted and applauded. "Thank you," Georgina called out to everyone, and they applauded and cheered more in response. "I could get used to this kind of treatment," she thought to herself. As she and her mom walked the last few steps down to the floor, the quartet began to play another slow, pleasant tune. Georgina's gaze swept across the room and landed on Francis, standing at the far end of it. He and Lena were eating snacks, smiling, laughing, and talking to each other. They looked like they were very happy. Lena's leg seemed to have almost recovered. She was not using a wheelchair like she did at the Handler Gala, nor did she have a crutch or any other aid. She just had a boot on one foot, peeking out from under her formal dress. Beside her, Millie Brown was in a tuxedo. As Georgina noticed this, she wrinkled her nose, annoyed. Georgina sighed. "They really do show up," she muttered quietly to herself, but did not see Morgana, or worst of all, Olivia. Georgina narrowed her eyes, wondering where the two of them were, and why they were not here yet. Georgina was suddenly approached by Jake Nevin, and her mother made herself scarce. "Georgina, happy birthday." Jake grinned as he walked up to her. "You are just breathtaking today, my lord." "Wow, look at you. Are you trying to make me pass out?" Georgina rolled her eyes but was pleased. "You're just a smooth talker, Jake." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Well, I don't know if hosting this whole shindig gets me the honor of inviting today's birthday star to dance with me first, but I sure would love to do the honors." He pretended to brush lint off his clothes and extended his hand to her. Georgina just looked at him. She thought for a moment as Jake's smug smile faltered. She shook her head. Jake's jaw dropped. "What do you mean? Do you know how hard it was for me to even get the time to attend this thing? How dare you tell me no?" She tossed her hair. "Cousin Jake, my first dance has already been reserved. I will give you the second one." She smiled mischievously at him. "Don't be jealous." Jake's upset expression eased as he thought about this. "Of course I'm jealous. Whatever stupid nobody you picked gets the honor of dancing with the finest woman in New York. He's got all the luck." Georgina laughed and fluttered her eyelashes at him. She left him and walked toward the crowd, gesturing subtly to her mom. Despite how their conversation ended, Jake watched Georgina walk away and felt annoyed. He did his best for this party, and what did he get in return? The one thing he asked for, he was told no. He wanted to swear at Georgina and put her in her place. Who did she think she was? Jessica graciously approached Jake, kissing him on both cheeks. "Jake, thank you for all of your hard work today." Jake smiled. "Oh, you don't need to thank me," he told her, though he would have been enraged if she had not said anything. After all, this is Georgina's first birthday in the U.S. We needed to show you both what New York can do when it's really showing off. Jessica chuckled. "I love that. I hope you have a great night too, young man." She smiled at him and walked off in the other direction. Jessica's stomach sank as she walked away. "This nephew of mine, Jake Nevin," she thought to herself, uneasy. "He has evil intentions. I just get that gut feeling. I have to remind Georgina to keep her distance from him. I'm glad she had me step in just now." On the other side of the party, Georgina had just approached Frances, Lena, and their friends. She looked directly at Frances and said with a smile, "Thank you for coming to my birthday party." Lena smiled a tight smile, knowing that Georgina did not want her to respond. "Of course we came. Happy birthday," she said sweetly. "What a cool party." "Thank you," Georgina said smugly while looking Lena's outfit up and down. She looked back to Frances, her voice much breathier now. "Frances, since today is my birthday, will you help me out with my birthday wish?" Frances shook his head. "I don't think so, Georgina. I'm pretty busy here with Lena." If his mother had not ordered him to come, he would not have wasted time that he could have spent studying or playing games to attend this party for a girl he did not like. Georgina's jaw dropped as she pretended to be offended. "Hey, don't be so petty." She was used to conversations with Frances going similarly and thought they were just bantering, or at least that he would wake up and warm to her eventually. "I haven't had a drink yet," Georgina drawled at Frances as she blinked rapidly. "Will you grab me something to drink?" Frances looked at the table near him that was filled with food but no drinks. He picked up a pastry and held it out to Lena. "Hey, do you want to eat this?" "This?" Lena looked at it and frowned. She shook her head. "No, it has jelly on it. Is there one with whipped cream?" Georgina's face fell. Francis looked at the pastry in his hand, then back at the table of desserts. He set the pastry down on someone's discarded plate and picked up another pastry, holding it out to Lena. "How about this one?" Lena happily accepted it. They both smiled. Georgina frowned and internally cursed them both. She was disgusted to the extreme by Francis ignoring her, and Lena happily eating a pastry. But she still put a cute, innocent smile on her face. "Lena, he's so stingy. Help me get him to fulfill my birthday wish. Today's my day, come on." "Huh?" Lena said through a bite, unused to Georgina trying to play nice with her. "What do you want me to say to him?" "It's my birthday," Georgina whined. "I would love for him to bring me a drink. But if he's not going to do that, what I would love even more is for him to dance with me first tonight. That's my favorite birthday tradition, and I've never heard of someone saying no to the birthday girl. Alina, wouldn't you let Francis dance with me? Just tell him it's okay for one dance, that's all I want. And after that, I'll give him right back to you." Lena chewed and looked at Francis, who had a nervous look on his face. His stomach began to churn as it dawned on him that Lena was actually considering this request.